Now to remove our quick release pump, all we have to do is, well, first we remove the high pressure hose from the pump, and then we open this, loosen the knot, the T-knot, to open the door. And then all we have to do is we make sure the pump is at the bottom of its stroke, and we pull the wrist pin. And now in order to get them to separate, we need to raise the motor so that this can be pulled out. And we do that either by running the pump quickly, or we can turn the motor by turning the fan from behind until it's at the top. Now you just find a tool that will fit through the hole. I'm using an L-hex key here, and you just patiently turn your fan. And be patient, it has to turn quite a few times. Now that we've got the motor at the top of its stroke, we can lift and we've removed the high pressure hose, we can lift the whole pump away. Today we're talking about rebuilding the pump. We've already removed it from the machine. I pre-loosened the intake suction head, and I guess we'll start by removing the suction head. And first step is we'll take care of the large check ball. It's the suction check ball, and I'll just open up the side of the pump to remove the check ball. And we'll remove the ball guide and seal, the spring, check ball, and inside of the gland nut is our intake disc, and we need to remove that to replace the O-rings on it. Alright, now this is the intake disc, and we're going to have to remove it to check the O-ring to make sure it's in good condition. We'll also check the other side of it. And to remove it, the best way is just to tap it out with something. It's not very tight, but you will need to tap it out. I'm just going to use the Tommy bar and a mallet. It doesn't take that much force. And this is the intake disc. And this is susceptible to wear over a long period of time, so you check it for wear. And this is the O-ring. And we check it and replace it if necessary. And now we're going to start disassembling the pump proper, and that starts by removing the packing nut. Use our Tommy bar, and we loosen it. And we remove the packing nut, and there will be the disc springs under it and the upper packings. Alright, now these are the disc springs, and notice they are not a flat, plain washer. They're a spring, and they have a curve to them. And the top one will be curved this way, and the bottom one will be curved this way, and together they act as the spring for the upper packings. And now we're going to push out the piston, and hopefully the packings carrier out through the bottom of the pump. So you tap from the top, and you tap it out, and then the piston should come out. And this is the lower packings with the pump carrier. Packing nut, and to do that, we'll just use something to keep it from turning. I'll just use the Tommy bar, and then use a 32mm wrench on this nut to remove it. That's the lower packing nut. The lower packing nut, one side is plain, and one side has this bevel. And the bevel faces outwards, and the plain side faces toward the packings. And now with the lower packing nut removed, it should be easy to pull the piston out of the lower packings holder. And it just pulls right out, and the packings have come off inside the holder. And when you remove the packings, you'll notice they come in a certain order. They're in this order, like this. Now, once you understand how the packings work, you'll be able to understand how to put it back together. It's actually very simple. The packings will be cupped toward the pressure. So the lower half of the lower packings are cupped toward the pressure of the intake ball, and so they'll be cupped this way. So you'll have a square edge here, and then the round edge, and then a cup spacer, the leather packing, and the pattern repeats. Cup spacer, leather packing, and another cup spacer. Try to get them off there. And that will go on for the first half. And then there is one spacer in the middle which is separating the two sides. And now the rest of the packings are cupped in the opposite direction. So we'll take them out. And you can see they're cupped this way. Cup and the leather packing and the cup, and finally the large end spacer. And then we also have two disc springs, and the one disc goes this way, one goes that way, just like on the top packing. And that's the packings. Now in the bottom of the piston is going to be the small check ball, and there's a socket-headed set screw in this hole, and you just use it. Just need an 8mm L hex key on that, and you need something through the hole on the other end of the piston just to keep it from turning when you break it free. I'll just use my 10mm L hex key on there, and then we'll just loosen it. And here's the check ball. The set screw, and maybe we'll give a tap with a hammer to get the ball out there. I'll just tap it. And notice this ball seat, the two sides are different. One side, in the center, there is a bevel. That's the side which faces the check ball. The other side is plain. And now we still have our upper packings in place, and we can pull them out. And you can just pull them out through the top. And they will all be facing cupped toward the pressure, so they'll be like this. And you also have the packing set C, which you have to press out to check your O-rings. And we'll just tap it out. I suppose we can just use the piston to push it out. Just very carefully press it out by tapping it out. The stripping down of the pump. We'll clean everything, and all the parts which have an O-ring, we're going to replace the O-rings. So the O-rings on the packing set seat, and the lower packing carrier, and as well as on the intake disc. We'll replace all the O-rings, and then we'll begin by rebuilding our pump and putting everything back together. Now, an important step in our rebuild kit would include all of the parts you need. We'll have all the O-rings and the check balls, and we'll have the packings. And an important step when you're doing your packings is the leather packings should be soaked in oil for about 30 minutes before you begin to assemble them, and we'll prepare them for their job. They have to expand in the oil. So when you get your packing set, you just take it out of the bag. And what we're going to do is we'll take all the leather packings and first put them in the oil. And once we let them soak, we'll begin reassembling the pump. Of your new packing set, there's going to be some different types of packings. You have to understand what they are. This is the leather packing, and you can see it's cupped in one direction. And this is the separator cups, and they will be also a similar shape. And you will also have one which is shaped like this. You can see both sides have a concave. You'll have one which has one side which is concave, one side which is flat. and then you'll have 3 which are flat on one side, which is square, and one side is rounded. And that's how we'll put together all of our packings. Okay, we're going to put in our new small check ball in the piston. That's our first step in rebuilding the pump. So we put in our new ball, just drop it in there. And then the ball seat, and make sure you have the beveled edge facing toward the ball. And then finally we put in the set screw, and this side will be toward the ball. But before we put it in, we need to put on some blue Loctite. And then we'll assemble it. And make sure it goes all the way home. Alright, now we're going to start assembling our lower packings. And first step, put on your disc springs. Remember, this one cups this way. The next one cups the other way. And then we'll start putting on our packings. We'll start with this one. This one's flat on the bottom and curved on the top. And then a separator cup, leather packing, they're a little bit stiff. Another separator cup, another leather packing, separator cup, and then this special one, which is concave on both sides. And then at this point it's probably easier to push it in because the cups are in the smooth direction. We'll put it into the carrier. Let's put that separator back in there. And we'll do the rest in the other direction. So the next one will be, let's see, another separator cup, leather packing, cupped this way now, separator cup, all cupped this way, the rest, leather packing, separator cup, and finally the end piece with the square side facing out, the rounded side facing toward the cup. And now it's time for us to put on our packing nut. Remember, the square side faces the packings, the beveled side will face out, but first we'll put on some blue Loctite. Because this nut will not be very tight. It's just enough to tension the packings. Probably the easiest way to do this, use something, we'll use a 32mm wrench on the nut. And then we can just turn the whole piston using a Tommy bar or something. So I'll just turn until it touches. And once they're just touching, you just turn a further 3/4 of a turn. So that should be about like that. And then the lower packings are tensioned. Alright, now we're going to do our upper packings, and this is the upper packing seat, and we've already replaced the O-rings and we put some grease on it, and we just press it into the pump body until it hits the bottom. And now we can put the piston in now. Just put it in from the bottom, and we just put it down on top of it. And now we'll start assembling our upper packings. And the upper packings will all be facing this direction. They'll all be cupped down toward the pressure of the pump in the center. So we'll start with this one. It's square on the bottom and curved on the top. That's the first one which goes in. We'll drop it in from the top. Next will be a separator cup, then a leather packing, another separator cup, all facing down. Another leather packing, another separator cup, and finally this special one. There's only one of these in the set, and it's cupped down and flat on the top. And these will be followed by the springs. Remember, one spring like this, one spring like this, We put it all together, and then we put in our packing nut. So we just move the pump. This has to come down slightly to get the thread started. And we start turning it. Yeah, that's about it. And then we turn it further. 3/4 of a turn. That should be plenty tight. That's probably good. And now we're just on to reassembling the bottom end of the pump. The pump is fairly well squared away. Now we replace this O-ring. We press in the intake disc to the gland nut. Our new check ball. And the ball guide, put the spring in there. It's easier to do it like in this direction. And then the seal. And that's, the pump is more or less ready to go in. We can just tap it up a little bit so that it's easier to install. And then we'll install it in the pump. And now we'll put the gland nut on the suction head. And add the seal. And then we attach it to the pump. And finally, we can put in our illustrator. And now the pump is ready to go. Okay, to install your pump, make sure you've got your motor at the top of its stroke. And you simply put it in place and make sure it's lined up. And now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the motor so that it comes down to match the top of the piston. Now when we replace the wrist pin, you can see there's a ring here, so you have to push sort of up against the ring to get the wrist pin in once it's lined up. So you push up, and then the wrist pin goes in. Alright, now we'll just close up the case and tighten the T-handle nut. And finally, we'll replace the high pressure hose. Now we'll just replace the hose. Use a 21mm wrench on there.